Mr. President.
Senator from Hawaii.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the package of bills on the Senate floor. But first, I want to share a brief update on the situation on Maui. We are now a month on from the devastating wildfires that killed 115 people and leveled the town of Lahaina. After a weeks-long search and recovery effort for remains, we've entered a new phase of the response. The Environmental Protection Agency has begun removing toxic household materials and waste so that residents can return to their homes safely. It's a painstaking process that's likely to take several months to complete. Life in Lahaina is still not normal. 42 people still missing. That's down from an initial count of nearly 3,000. More than 7,000 people are living in temporary housing like hotels and Airbnbs. 3,000 students are displaced from their schools. And the local economy is reeling without tourism. Small businesses are struggling to stay afloat. Hundreds of people, restaurant workers, hotel workers, helicopter tour operators, are being laid off. More than 10,000 people filed for unemployment in the 3 weeks following the fires. In total, the economic impact of the fires is estimated at nearly $2 billion through next year. That's not counting the damage, that's the economic impact. It is hard to overstate how much help the people of Maui need. To date, more than 15,000 survivors have applied for FEMA assistance. That's just a narrow snapshot into what's needed now and in the months and years to come. People urgently need basic items like phones and new IDs. Long term, they're going to need permanent solutions for housing and schools. In the meantime, damaged infrastructure like roads, highways, schools, and healthcare centers will need to be rebuilt. The road to recovery will be long, and it will require billions of dollars in federal aid to get the job done. Congress has a responsibility to provide relief and to deliver it quickly. Now, I want to turn to the appropriations bills under consideration. These bills make critical investments to advance our nation's health and safety by ensuring affordable housing for 10 million people, protecting the integrity of our food supply, supporting the readiness of our armed forces, and more. And so it's vital that we pass them. Each of these bills was developed through a collaborative, bipartisan process, and each bill was unanimously passed out of committee by a vote of 29-0. Unanimously passed out of committee by a vote of 29-0. I want to thank Chair Murray in particular and Vice Chair Collins, as well as Majority Leader Schumer and Minority Leader McConnell for their leadership in helping to restore the appropriations process to regular order. And I'm looking at the presiding officer, my good friend from Connecticut, and you know, we entered the Senate, I think only 13 days apart from each other, and people have been talking about regular order for a long time, to the point where it actually sometimes results in an eye roll. We should do regular order. We should do regular order. Easier said than done. But it took the two women chairs, or chair and vice chair of the Appropriations Committee, to get us onto the floor, to have not an omnibus but a minibus, to have just a couple of bills that were actually marked up on a bipartisan basis, and then to have amendments. And so this is a significant moment for the Senate in trying to restore its reputation as the world's greatest deliberative body. The Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development and related agencies, THUD portion of this minibus package, where I'm the chair, and I work so closely with my friend and the vice chair, Senator Hyde-Smith, provides $99 billion for affordable housing and homeless assistance, infrastructure development, the operations of the FAA and Amtrak, and safety oversight of our transportation systems. It does not include everything we wanted because it was negotiated to be in line with the spending caps set by the debt ceiling budget agreement. But it still makes meaningful investments to improve housing access and the reliability and safety of transportations nationwide. And so I want to thank again my counterpart on the THUD committee, Ranking Member Cindy Hyde-Smith, who has been a collaborative partner throughout this process. And I want to thank the committee members and our staff on both sides of the aisle, the subcommittee staff, the whole committee staff, the leadership staff, our personal office staff, We come out here and it's our name on the door and it's our name on the bumper sticker, and we're going to talk about the work that has been done. But anybody who knows the legislative process knows that we're not the ones actually executing. We're not the ones drafting the legislative text. Doesn't mean we don't play a role, but there are dozens and dozens of people who made personal and professional sacrifices to be here and to do this work and produce an incredibly strong bill. It is no secret that we have a housing crisis in America. It affects millions of Americans in every state. And day by day, more and more people are falling into homelessness. The homeless population is also aging with more complicated medical conditions that make it harder to serve. And that's why we're protecting existing rental assistance programs and increasing efforts to reduce homelessness. Specifically, we're targeting resources to improve coordination between housing and health services, building the capacity of communities and service providers, and creating more permanent supportive housing opportunities. The bill also maintains funding levels for the Home Investment Partnership and Community Development Block Grant programs. Both of these are popular and important tools that enable state and local governments to support the construction of more housing and the community needs around it. And in the second year of the Yes in My Backyard program, we are incentivizing jurisdictions to remove regulatory barriers and unlock private investment to increase housing stock. We need to continue to use every tool at our disposal to address this national housing shortage. One more thought on the Yes in My Backyard initiative. There is no amount of money that we could put in this bill that would solve our housing problem unless we deal with the barriers. We are creating shortages of housing at the state and county level. We are creating shortages of housing. It's the only thing I've ever thought of in the government where the government creates a shortage and then the policymakers sort of stroke their chins going, what should we do about this shortage? Well, you've made it harder to build housing for people. And so the YIMBY program is designed not to control, but to incentivize jurisdictions to try to figure out how to unleash private sector investment and increase the supply of housing. Yes, LIHTC is important. Yes, permanent supportive housing is important. Yes, the housing voucher program is important. Yes, HOPWA is important. Yes, HUD-VASH is important. All of that matters, and we should fund it at as high of a level as we can possibly stomach. But the truth is that even that won't be enough until we allow people to do what they wish with their property and build more housing. We've included record-level funding for Native American housing programs, something I'm particularly pleased about as the senator from Hawaii and the chairman of the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs. Native residents are nearly twice as likely to live in poverty and 3 times more likely to live in an overcrowded condition compared to other U.S. households. Given the scope of this challenge, this funding is just a start, and we're going to need a lot more to address it fully. And for transportation, the bill is focused on supporting the operational needs of the FAA. We have fully funded the FAA's budget request on operations, staffing, facilities, and equipment in order to restore hiring and modernization efforts that were frozen during the pandemic. My colleagues and I are separately working to reauthorize the FAA, and this funding is complementary to those efforts. This bill also maintains our commitment to building on the historic investments in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to improve our aging transportation systems across America. For instance, it aims to address the rail safety deficiencies identified in the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment by fully meeting the request for rail safety inspectors and research into wayside detection technologies. Tens of millions of Americans across the country, including our veterans, will benefit from the investments that we made in this bill in terms of where they live, how they get around, and the food that they eat. It is critical that we pass these bills. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.